What if everything you believed about burning belly fat was completely backwards? Most people assume that if they just push harder, sweat more, and suffer through brutal workouts, the fat will eventually surrender. But here's what the science actually shows, and this is going to stop you in your tracks. The harder you push your body, the more it fights back, and the more it clings to the very fat you're desperately trying to lose. That's not a motivational quote. That's biology. And once you understand why your body behaves this way, you'll never look at exercise the same way again. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most underestimated, misunderstood, and genuinely powerful strategies for reducing visceral fat, the dangerous kind wrapped around your organs deep inside your abdomen. This isn't the fat you can grab or pinch on the surface. This is the fat silently sitting around your liver, your pancreas, your intestines, quietly increasing your risk of heart disease, type 2 diabetes, fatty liver disease, and chronic inflammation. And the most shocking part is this: visceral fat doesn't respond to punishment. It responds to precision. There's a specific metabolic state your body can enter where it stops burning sugar for fuel and starts prioritizing fat instead. Scientists have studied this state extensively, and what they found is remarkable. When your body reaches this state, your mitochondria, the tiny power plants inside your cells, begin running on fatty acids instead of glucose. Fat oxidation increases, inflammation begins to quiet down, insulin sensitivity improves, and visceral fat, slowly but consistently, begins to release its grip.
The path to getting there doesn't require a gym membership, expensive equipment, or even stepping outside your front door. It requires understanding the right intensity, the right biological signals, and the right approach. And today, you're going to get all three. Let's start by dismantling the biggest lie in the fitness industry. The belief that harder always means better when it comes to fat loss is one of the most damaging ideas ever sold to the public. Think about every person you know who has thrown themselves into intense, exhausting workouts 6 days a week, dripping in sweat, barely able to walk afterward, yet months later, their belly looks almost exactly the same. That's not a lack of effort. That's a misunderstanding of biology. When you push your body to high intensity, something very specific happens inside your system. Your cortisol levels spike. Cortisol is your primary stress hormone, and its job, its ancient primal job, is to keep you alive during a threat. When cortisol rises, your body shifts into survival mode. It holds on to energy reserves. It resists breaking down deep fat stores. It does this because for millions of years, intense physical effort meant danger, predators, starvation, crisis. Your body doesn't know you're on a treadmill. It only knows you're under stress. And under stress, it protects the fat, especially visceral fat. This is why people who train brutally but incorrectly often feel exhausted, inflamed, and frustrated, yet the stubborn belly fat refuses to move. Now here's where it gets genuinely fascinating. Moderate intensity exercise sends a completely different message to your biology. When you move at the right level, not too hard, not too easy, your heart rate rises but doesn't trigger alarm bells.
Your breathing deepens but stays controlled. Your nervous system interprets this as safety. And in that state of perceived safety, your body stops defending itself and starts optimizing instead. Your mitochondria shift their preference from quick-burning glucose to slow, steady, sustainable fatty acids. Fat oxidation begins. Cortisol stays low. Inflammation decreases. And visceral fat, which only releases when your body feels safe, starts to quietly recede. This is the metabolic sweet spot. And it's available to anyone, anywhere, at any time. Here's something that surprises most people when they first hear it. Your body has absolutely no idea whether you're walking through a park, cycling in your living room, or marching in place in your bedroom. Your nervous system and your mitochondria don't respond to location. They respond to effort level, to breathing patterns, to the biological signals you send with every step and every breath. Metabolic effectiveness is about intensity, not geography. This means every single one of the 6 indoor methods we're about to cover can produce the exact same fat-burning results as outdoor exercise, as long as the intensity is right. But here's the part where most people unknowingly sabotage themselves.
Many people believe they're exercising at moderate intensity when they're actually pushing too hard. Others move so gently that they never cross the threshold where fat metabolism activates. The good news is your body gives you reliable, free, built-in cues to know exactly where you are, no heart rate monitor required. The first is called the talk test. At moderate intensity, you should be able to speak a full sentence, but it should feel slightly effortful.
Not gasping, not desperate, but not breezy conversation either. If you can't string a sentence together without fighting for air, you've crossed into high intensity, and your body has shifted toward glucose burning and cortisol release. If you can talk completely freely without any effort, you're moving too gently and haven't reached the metabolic threshold. That small challenge, that just enough effort, is where fat oxidation lives. The second cue is your breathing rhythm. At the right intensity, your breath becomes deeper and more rhythmic, but it stays controlled and predictable. It should sound like steady waves, not crashing surf. Calm, controlled breathing directly supports your parasympathetic nervous system, the branch of your nervous system responsible for rest, recovery, and fat metabolism. When your breathing stays steady, your body remains in optimization mode. When it turns chaotic and rapid, survival mode switches on and fat burning switches off. The third cue is the feeling of sustainability. Moderate intensity should feel like something you could genuinely maintain for 30, 40, even 60 minutes. There should be no muscle burning, no gasping, no desperate counting of seconds until it ends. If you feel like you're barely surviving the workout, intensity is too high. If you feel like you're barely moving, intensity is too low. That feeling of steady, comfortable challenge, that's your metabolic engine running on fat. Now let's talk about visceral fat specifically, because understanding why it behaves the way it does changes everything about how you approach losing it. Visceral fat is not passive stored energy sitting quietly in reserve. It behaves more like a dysfunctional organ.
It actively releases inflammatory chemicals, cytokines, free fatty acids, hormones that disrupt your entire metabolic system. It sits intimately close to your liver, and everything it releases goes directly into its liver's blood supply. This overloads the liver, impairs its ability to process fats and sugars, and contributes to fatty liver disease, unstable blood sugar, and rising cardiovascular risk. The inflammation visceral fat creates also drives insulin resistance. Insulin resistance means your cells stop responding properly to insulin's signal to absorb glucose. Your pancreas responds by pumping out more insulin. Higher insulin levels keep your body locked in fat storage mode. More fat gets stored, more visceral fat accumulates, inflammation worsens, and the cycle continues feeding itself. This is why simply cutting calories or doing random exercise often fails to move visceral fat. Because if you haven't addressed insulin resistance and inflammation, the biological environment still favors fat storage over fat release. Moderate intensity exercise breaks this cycle systematically. Research consistently shows that steady aerobic exercise reduces C-reactive protein, one of the most important markers of systemic inflammation in the body. As inflammation decreases, visceral fat loses its primary reason to stay. At the same time, muscles activated during moderate exercise become significantly more efficient at absorbing glucose from the bloodstream. Blood sugar stabilizes, insulin demand drops, the constant fat storage signal finally quiets down. When insulin is no longer chronically elevated, your body can access stored fat for energy instead of constantly adding to it.
Your liver, relieved of the inflammatory pressure from visceral fat, begins processing lipids more efficiently. Fat that was accumulating internally starts moving through the system and getting used as fuel. This isn't fat burning through brutal force, it's fat release through biological cooperation. Now let's get specific with the 6 indoor options that create this state without ever leaving your home. The stationary bike is arguably the most precise, moderate-intensity tool available to anyone. The reason it's so effective is control. You can adjust resistance in tiny increments, making it easy to stay within the exact metabolic zone where fat oxidation is highest. Set the resistance so that your heart rate rises steadily, your breathing deepens, but you can still pass the talk test. This is metabolic cruise control. Fat burns consistently without your body switching to glucose. The stationary bike is particularly valuable for beginners because it removes the guesswork of staying at the right intensity. The second method is slow, controlled jumping jacks, performed at a deliberately reduced tempo. This is nothing like the explosive version used in high-intensity circuits. The goal here is a smooth, rhythmic motion where the work spreads evenly between your upper and lower body. Moving deliberately, arms up and down, legs out and in, all in controlled rhythm, prevents heart rate spikes and keeps you in the fat-burning zone. The key is consistency and rhythm, not speed. The third method is invisible rope skipping, mimicking the motion of jumping rope without an actual rope. Light, repetitive hops activate the calf muscles, which are exceptionally rich in mitochondria and highly capable of fat oxidation.
Stay on the balls of your feet. Keep the movement light and bouncy. This can be done in the smallest apartment without disturbing anyone, and when performed at moderate pace, it's a remarkably efficient metabolic tool. The fourth method is low step-ups, performed with controlled, deliberate pacing. Use a step that's only 4 to 6 inches high. A thick book, a low platform, or a small step stool works perfectly. The large muscle groups of your legs and glutes engage steadily, keeping your heart rate in the moderate zone without pushing into high intensity. Step up with one foot, bring the other foot up, step back down, and repeat. The lower the platform, the easier it is to maintain steady, controlled effort. This simple movement becomes a quiet but powerful metabolic engine over time. The fifth method is slow high knee marching, intentional, purposeful walking in place. Lift your knees to hip height, but do it slowly and with full control. Add a gentle arm swing to involve your upper body and distribute the cardiovascular demand. This movement engages your hips, core, and cardiovascular system without any impact on your joints. It proves, perhaps more clearly than anything else, that gentle does not mean ineffective when the movement is done with awareness and at the right intensity. The sixth method is a mini circuit, rotating between light movements every 2 minutes. Slow squats for 2 minutes, then side steps, then marching in place, then back to slow squats. Changing movements prevents any single muscle group from fatiguing too quickly, which would push you out of moderate intensity. Your cardiovascular system stays engaged at a consistent level, while your brain stays stimulated by the variety.
This approach is ideal for anyone who gets mentally bored with repetitive movement, because the activity changes while the metabolic demand stays constant. None of these 6 methods need to look impressive to be effective. They need to be metabolically precise. When the movement feels safe yet steady, when breathing is controlled and rhythmic, your body receives the signal clearly, and visceral fat begins responding. Now let's talk about something most people completely overlook, and it may be the most important factor in this entire approach: breathing. How you breathe during movement is not a minor detail. It is the steering wheel that keeps your metabolism on course. Without conscious, controlled breathing, you can drift out of the fat-burning zone even during gentle exercise without realizing it. Your nervous system uses your breathing pattern as its primary tool for evaluating whether the environment is safe or threatening. Rapid, shallow breathing sends a clear alarm signal: threat detected. The sympathetic nervous system activates, cortisol rises, your body shifts into survival mode, fat burning stops, glucose burning begins. But slow, deep, controlled breathing, breathing in through your nose, out through your mouth naturally, sends the opposite message entirely. Movement is happening, but danger is not. When your parasympathetic nervous system receives the signal, it increases what's called vagal tone. Vagal tone acts as a natural buffer for your heart rate, preventing unnecessary spikes and keeping your body in the metabolic zone where fat oxidation is highest. This explains something that confuses a lot of people: why 2 people doing the exact same exercise can have dramatically different results.
One person breathes frantically and stays locked in glucose-burning mode the entire time. The other breathes calmly and consistently, and their body unlocks fat oxidation within minutes. The exercise is identical. The breath is different. The metabolic outcome is completely different. Rhythmic nasal breathing also improves oxygen delivery to your mitochondria, and this matters enormously because fat oxidation is an oxygen-dependent process. Without sufficient stable oxygen delivery, your mitochondria cannot efficiently burn fatty acids for fuel. The moment breathing becomes chaotic, your body immediately shifts to burning glucose, because glucose can be broken down quickly without requiring as much oxygen. Stable, controlled breathing literally unlocks fat burning at the cellular level.
A practical sign that you've found the right breathing rhythm is a gentle internal warmth, not burning, not gasping, but a comfortable, sustainable heat spreading through your body. Movement should feel almost meditative, like you could continue indefinitely without strain or willpower. This is your body cooperating with you instead of fighting you. And that cooperation is where real, lasting metabolic change lives. Let's zoom out now and look at what happens to your body over weeks and months of consistent moderate intensity training, because the long-term picture is genuinely remarkable. The most visible change is gradual visceral fat reduction that shows up as a slowly shrinking waistline. As insulin stabilizes and inflammation decreases consistently over time, visceral fat loses its biological purpose. Week by week, the metabolic pressure on your liver, your heart, and your blood vessels quietly eases.
You may not notice dramatic changes day to day, but compare where you are after 1 month to where you started, and the shift becomes undeniable. At the cellular level, something even more profound is happening. Moderate intensity training increases mitochondrial density, meaning your muscle cells actually grow more mitochondria over time. Each individual mitochondrion also becomes more efficient at producing energy from fat. Your body's dependence on quick sugar fixes and caffeine decreases naturally because your cellular power plants have learned to run cleanly and efficiently on fatty acids instead. Energy crashes become rare. Post-meal sluggishness fades. You wake up with energy that lasts because your metabolism has been fundamentally upgraded, not temporarily boosted. Insulin sensitivity improves throughout your entire body. Your muscles absorb glucose more efficiently after meals, which means blood sugar stays stable instead of spiking and crashing. You'll notice fewer cravings, more stable moods, and a calmer relationship with food overall. Hunger becomes something you can manage rather than something that controls you. Because your body is finally accessing stored fat for energy, you stop depending so heavily on your next meal. This approach also carries remarkably low injury risk. Unlike high-impact running or explosive training, which place significant stress on joints over time, moderate intensity exercise is sustainable for years, even decades. You can do this at 40, at 60, at 70, and beyond. It's not a short-term intervention, it's a lifelong metabolic practice. Now, how do you actually track whether this is working, especially when the scale refuses to cooperate?
This is one of the most important questions to answer, because most people make the mistake of trusting the scale above everything else. The scale is one of the least useful tools for measuring visceral fat loss. You could lose 5 pounds of visceral fat and gain 3 pounds of lean muscle simultaneously. The scale would show only a 2-pound drop, but your health would have improved dramatically. The most reliable early indicator is your waist circumference. Measure consistently at the same spot, at the same time of day, once per week. Even a half-inch reduction per month is meaningful, significant progress. That measurement reflects real changes in the fat surrounding your organs, which is exactly what we're targeting. The second indicator is your ability to sustain moderate intensity for progressively longer periods. In the beginning, 20 minutes may feel genuinely challenging. After consistent training, you'll find yourself moving for 30, 40, 60 minutes at the same intensity without breathlessness. This isn't just fitness improving. This is mitochondrial efficiency developing inside your cells. Your body is literally getting better at producing energy from fat. The third indicator is your resting heart rate, measured first thing in the morning before you get out of bed. Check your pulse for 1 full minute. As your cardiovascular system and nervous system adapt to regular moderate intensity training, your resting heart rate will gradually decrease. A drop of 5 to 10 beats per minute over 3 months is excellent, meaningful progress. It reflects improved heart efficiency, better nervous system balance, and a body that is genuinely becoming healthier from the inside out.
The fourth indicator is your daily energy and hunger patterns. As visceral fat decreases and insulin sensitivity improves, energy becomes remarkably more stable throughout the day. Fewer crashes, less desperate snacking, a calmer, more manageable relationship with hunger. These subtle shifts are signs that your blood sugar is stabilizing and your metabolism is operating more efficiently. Metabolic progress is quiet. It doesn't announce itself with dramatic overnight transformations. It builds steadily, consistently, and powerfully, like an engine that's been tuned to run smoothly instead of burning out.
Track these biological markers consistently, and you will see undeniable evidence that your body is changing from the inside out. Here is the truth that ties everything together. Losing visceral fat is not a battle you fight against your body. It's a conversation you learn to have with your biology. The fitness industry has spent decades selling the idea that suffering equals results, that if you're not gasping, bleeding, and collapsing, you're not working hard enough. But your body doesn't reward punishment. It rewards precision. When your nervous system feels safe, when your breathing is steady, when your movement is consistent and controlled, your body finally feels safe enough to let go of the protective fat it has been holding on to. You don't need outdoor space. You don't need expensive equipment. You don't need to push yourself to the edge of exhaustion. You need the right intensity. You need controlled, rhythmic breathing. You need patience, consistency, and the understanding that your body is not your enemy. It never was. It was always waiting for the right signal, and now you know exactly how to send it.